All right, Algebra 2 fans, we're back here with another thrilling and exciting joke riddle sheet, and you can see which one we're going to talk about here. But before we do that, as always, we want to go back and review the previous one. What did Chlorine say when she married a man 3.5 feet tall? And I believe the answer is better to love a short man than to never have loved a tall. Right? So that's a little bit of play on maybe a phrase that you may or may not be familiar with. But anyway, that is the answer to this. All right. Today's worksheet is we're going to continue this adding and subtracting, but it does get a little bit harder here. Not common denominators, but this time some of them have binomial on their denominator, whereas on the chlorine paper it was just some monomial. So just before giving birth to her first child, why did Mrs. Plum yell, shouldn't, couldn't, wouldn't, didn't, can't? All right. So what we're going to take a look at here is on number 1. I feel like that's just like one of the previous problems that we've done here. So I'm going to skip number 1, and that's just like the chlorine paper. I'll give you guys a first glimpse at that. But what we're going to take a look at is, again, just like any kind of adding or subtracting fractions, we have to get common denominators, right? And so this is a little bit different, right? Because they have binomials, or even in the case of number 3, even a trinomial with some of those denominators. So we want to factor, if possible, the bottom of every single denominator, right? That's the whole goal here. And we want to just make them look the same by, in addition, making some factors move over, right? So before I go any further, let's use some of our knowledge back in 4th, 5th grade about how to get common denominators in special types of situations. So just kind of making a problem up here. Let's say that I have this problem, 3/7 plus 2/5. Now, I will get that these problems are obviously going to be a little bit harder than this fraction right here, but the whole purpose is basically the same. All right? It just has variables in it, right? It just has letters, which definitely does make it a little bit more challenging in how we think about this. All right. So if I have this right here, how do I get common denominators? Well, essentially what I'm going to do is 5 and 7, they don't share any factors. So I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom by 5 for the first fraction, and I'm going to multiply the top and the bottom here by 7, right? Notice that actually allows me to have a common denominator of 35. All right, so that's very important to note there. And that's essentially how we're going to do this. We're going to take a look at common factors. All right, so let's go ahead and skip down to number 2, 20 over the quantity u squared minus 16 plus 3 over the quantity u plus 4. So the first goal, the first thing I want to do is try to factor the bottom of every single denominator. On number 2, it looks like this factors to u minus 4 and u plus 4. The denominator on the second one does not factor as far as the u plus 4 goes. All right? So what we want to do is just like above, I had things that did not have common factors, at least one of them, and so what I did is I just multiplied it by that common factor. So notice, on the bottom of this left, it's really a u minus 4 and a u plus 4. What do I have on the bottom of the left that I do not have on the bottom of the right? That's the question that we want to ask ourselves. It does have a u plus 4, and so does this one have a u plus 4, but what it doesn't have is it doesn't have a u minus 4, right? So that's the factor that has to be there on the bottom of the right fraction in order for us to have a common denominator. Well, if I put it on the bottom, as always, I've got to put it on the top. Now, if we look at this, again, we understand that this u squared minus 16, it's not that it's not there anymore, it just looks different, right? So that's the only reason I'm scribbling it out. Because now if I think about this, oh, you know what I do have? I do have two different factors, u minus 4 and u plus 4 on the bottom of the left, and I have those same factors on the bottom of the right. In order to get there, I did adjust the top by a factor of u minus 4. Alright, so now when I'm looking at this here, this is where it might come in that you actually do need the backside or a separate sheet of paper here for this. So what I'm going to do is I have my 20 over u minus 4, u plus 4, and I'm going to add that to 3u minus 12. And again, that's u minus 4 and u plus 4 on the bottom. Again, how I adjusted that numerator of the second fraction was just by distributing. What I have here now is just to look at some like terms. It looks like I have a 20 and a negative 12. I have a 3u. So I have a 3u minus 8, plus 8, 3u plus 8, and that is just going to be over u minus 4 and u plus 4 right there. All right? Are we seeing any answer choice? Yes. The answer choice with the A and the S right there definitely shows that we have the correct answer with that. So again, common denominators, we're going to multiply if necessary, some of the bottoms to make a common denominator. Now, we've already done one question. I will be upfront with you. I think this is probably the hardest of all of them. But I think the payoff is good with the answer for what Mrs. Plum was doing. So, we'll see if we get there. Another one that I want to try here is, we'll try number 6. If I look at number 6, right here, I have my two denominators. It looks like that these two things, neither of them can be factored, and they don't share any common factors either. So if I have an a minus 8 on the bottom, I also need to have an a minus 8 over here on the bottom of the right-hand side. So I'm going to include that factor of a minus 8 on the bottom, which means I also have to include it on the top. I'm employing that same strategy right here to see what I need to put on the bottom of the left-hand side. Notice I do have a 3a plus 1, but I don't have a 3a plus 1 on the bottom of the left. So I'm going to go ahead and squeeze this in here. I'm going to put a 3a plus 1 on the bottom of that one, which means I'm just going to put a 3a plus 1 on the top of the left-hand side. We're going to use the same strategies that we have in the past as far as distributing 5 times 1, 5 times 3a, 4 times a, and 4 times negative 8. Alright, so again, when I'm working this out, my common denominator looks to be 3a plus 1, and then the second one is a minus 8. If I'm distributing, 5 times 3a is 15a, 5 times 1 is just 5. It looks for the second fraction, I do have the same denominators. Remember, that's the whole goal, is to get common denominators in order to be able to add, or in this case, actually, we're going to be subtracting. So I'm glad I caught that before I went any further, right? So if I distribute that 4, it just is 4a minus 32. All right. We're at the part of the program where we're just combining some like terms, so it looks like I have a couple A's, a couple numbers without. Now be very careful here. This subtraction sign will throw people off. We need to make sure that we are subtracting the like terms. So read it this way, please. 15, and I'll zoom in, I guess, here a little bit. Didn't realize it was that far away. 15a minus 4a. So 15a minus 4a. That is just going to simplify to be 11a. The next thing that we have right here is that we have 5 minus 32. 5 minus negative 32. Alright? So with that being said, 5 minus negative 32, that's actually positive 37. 5 minus negative 32 is just positive 37. All right, so I'm going to keep my common denominator right here. I've already combined it, so I actually only have one fraction left, and it looks like there it is, the answer choice in S, right? It looks like I have the denominator in a different order. That doesn't matter. I'm just multiplying those two factors, and so order doesn't matter on the bottom, right? We've taken a look at two even problems. I know this is the hardest one. This might even take us the longest time, even if I only give you half of them. Let's just do the odds here, 1 through 11, just the odds. Again, the payoff is good on this joke, so if you have time, please feel free to do some of the others. Include the odds and number 2 and number 6 in your work for full credit, submitting it through Canvas online. Have a good one, guys. Until next time.